Okay, testing. It's testing. 1 2 testing. 1 2 1 2 3. It is your one, your only Ralph Hayes Jr. Reality Check Live checking in for his barely live studio audience. Why? Because we like you. MOUSC. I don't know. All right, let's see here. First of all, we need to let everybody know we're back. So we're going on IRC and saying, "Hey, turn on the channel." And let's see here. Where's the Spleen Squeezin? The kludge. Okay, if you're listening, if you can hear me, if I can hear you. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't hear nothing. Okay, I've got the audio gain all the way up. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I have got to adjust something because let's see here. Okay, let's see. Not much sound is coming through. That's what's bothering me right now. Manage audio devices, recording. Testing. Die. Okay, I think I've managed to fix it so you can hear me, but I'm still having trouble with this microsecond delay. It's driving me nuts. Uh, excuse me. Testing. Testing at 7:40. Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Now we wait. Okay, I think I've solved the problem. Testing, 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 1, 2. And I think I've solved the problem. There, I think that'll have to do, actually. Getting a lot of white noise. So there, I think that fixes it. At least it should fix it. I hope somebody comes in, because, well, if not, we'll see. I have not gotten anything today. Well, actually, I did get some stuff done. I just haven't got any art done today. I just had to fill out some paperwork, go through my tax papers and stuff, and I've got letters I've got to send out. I've still got to get out to the mailbox, or I've got to catch someone around here and beg them to walk down to the mailbox. I can't find anybody, that I can just ask to do things, I mean, see, this is the reason old people have kids. And I'm not really joking here. I mean, I'm a little bit serious here, because if you don't have kids when you're an old fart, you've got nobody to look after you. And that's true whether you live in the 18th century or you end up being one of those people they don't learn your fate until one of your neighbors notices the smell. There's never anybody out on the street, never any kids running around playing. There's never any teenagers roaming around the neighborhood. There's nobody out there. I mean, I never see anybody out on the street or out on a sidewalk or just sitting out on their porch or anything. Uh, you know, grabbing somebody by the coattails and asking, "Hey, could you do me a big favor and take this down to the mailbox?" That's an ordeal. It's a epic level to catch somebody for 5 seconds just so you can get to the mailbox. I'm really starting to appreciate. Sad to say it took this long. I was never unappreciative before. But there's just some things you don't understand. You don't realize. It's not the big obvious things like, he lost his legs and now he has to cope in a world difficult. It's not, or he has to deal with the tragedy of being handicapped, and no, it's the little things that get you. It's the little things. It's the things that when getting your mail to the mailbox, or picking your mail up, or mowing your lawn, or I don't know, doing the dishes without your back giving out, or everybody says this. You take it so for granted until you, but everybody falls victim to the same way of thinking. Is that they do have sympathy for you. It's just that, and they do understand to some extent that you are handicapped now. You're old. Your feet hurt. Your legs hurt. Your back hurt. You can't do things. You get tired all the time. I mean, they accept that, but living it is an entire different world. I think a good example would be there is this old Foxtrot comic strip I saw one year. The family, the running gag in Foxtrot is that their father always takes them to some hole for a vacation, like a camping trip in some godforsaken wilderness, or he actually booked them on a vacation one summer for the desert, for the American desert in July. and every year it's an ordeal from wall to wall for all of them. And well, anyway, I'm getting off the subject. Anyway, he surprises the fool out of them all by getting them a trip to Hawaii. And they go down there. You don't. You know, difference between seeing the elephant on TV, or even seeing the elephant at the zoo or at the circus, and seeing the elephant in Africa. If you get what I think that explains it better. I mean, you can live your whole life with somebody who's gotten up in years, and everything hurts, and everything that used to be easy for them is difficult. Opening a jar is an ordeal, and you don't think a thing. You don't think a thing. You realize that someday you'll be like that, but then suddenly, it's no longer the elephant in the zoo. It's the elephant standing outside your safari car in Africa, and it's a whole different experience. That's what I'm trying to say is that once, and it comes, and no matter how you prepare for it, it comes as such a shock. I'm 44, and I have less mobility than my grandmother did at nearly twice that age because of how my legs are. I mean, I'd seen the elephant, I'd been through that before, but I'd seen the elephant in the zoo. This was me seeing it, seeing the elephant in Africa. And I think the thing that spelled it out to me that I am no longer an able-bodied young person, that I'm no longer an able-bodied middle-aged person, that I am effectively disabled, was when I got down on the floor to reach under the sink and try and fix a pipe under the sink. And I got down there and I realized I could not get back up again. Not that I didn't want to, not that it was going to hurt an awful lot, because of how my knees were, or how my legs were, or anything like that, but I simply could not get up. I mean, I was sending all sorts of instructions to my legs and arms and everything, saying, pick this heifer up off the floor. And the message was coming back, the engines are out, boss. We're not doing nothing. I managed, after all, it took me nearly 20 minutes of flailing around to finally get a hold of a folding chair and a walking stick and the edge of the counter, and just step by step lever myself back up, first into a sitting position, then into a kneeling position, then into a standing position. And I realized that if I ever tried to lie down on the floor to fix something ever again, I would never get back up. Not until they came in and lifted me up in a stretcher or a hearse. And more than likely, I am never going to even be that spry again. Barring a miracle, where all my finances and barring a miracle where I suddenly strike it rich and become a wildly successful cartoonist and artist and author, and I've got like bankrolls under each arm, and I can afford to and I'm no longer having to eat junk just to survive, and I'm no longer having to hobble around, and I can afford to just walk into a health clinic or a rehab clinic and just say, rotate the tires and change the engine, barring a miracle that just lets me wallow in money. This is it. I am never going to. I am not going to get down. I'm not going to lose any significant amount of weight. I'm not going to reverse the condition of my legs. This is an irreversible condition. It's a syndrome that you're stuck with for life. Once it sets, there's no surgery that can fix it. There's no medicine that can fix it. There is no treatment that does anything more than squeeze your leg like a toothpaste tube down to a normal size for maybe an hour, and then it balloons back up again. And I'm really starting to wonder what's the point of that, except maybe to provide the brief illusion of recovery. And I'm never going to I'm never going to be one of those spry older people who you see doing yoga at the Y. I'm going to be one of those fat lumps that who's basically shut in, can't drive themselves anywhere, can't. All the male actors, I think the female actresses, the actresses are like in their 30s, but all the men there are my age or older. Does this? I mean, crap. Sylvester Stallone is 70, and he could probably pick me up and bench press me. It's one thing to be obese. It's one thing to be fat, to be obese when you're young, and there's a strong, healthy body underneath the fat. But when you get up in years and things start breaking down, you are an old man carrying another old man on your back. Uh, I've become an invalid. I've become a shut-in, just about. And I'm in a lot of the crisis I'm in because I refused to accept that. I was lazy and I didn't want to. I didn't want to spend a couple. I didn't want. Every time I thought of it, I thought to myself, I do not want to spend 2, 3 years fighting with the 30 people, trying to convince them that I'm disabled when I don't think I'm disabled myself. I'm just, I think I'm just overweight. And I can get skinny anytime. Guess what? You're not going to. But, and I would think I'm not really disabled, and they're going to say the same thing. And I really don't feel like engaging in an exercise in futility. Yeah, my legs are swollen, but and they're getting worse. But I didn't believe that I was old and sick. Going to be scratching. I am going to have to deal with the Social Security people, and I'm going to have to deal with the Medicaid people. I'm going to have to deal with all the different little government programs are out there because I haven't got any options. I did not make I did not make a success of myself. I did not successfully prepare for my future when I was young and healthy. And now that I am old and unhealthy, I am. It's a mark of shame against me. And what little I have done to make my own way, I have really not. I've really failed to live up to my potential. Okay. I'm trusting that you can still hear me because I had to turn off my microphone. The earpieces on my microphone because I still haven't figured out why I've got that echo. I think what it is that most of the sound is playing through Flash for some reason, and Flash is refusing to cooperate with Minicam. All right. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. Try and keep the bandwidth down. There we go. I've been kind of slow on doing stuff. I'm always slow. I'm getting old. I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm not even going to talk about it. I am what I am. I'll keep working. I'll keep working at things, but I won't lie. I won't pretend I'm any better than I am. And I won't say, I'll get better. I'm not getting better. I've looked in the mirror. I'm not getting better. I'm not, the only way I'd get better is if I got younger. Okay. All right, we've got two people in the audience. Someday we'll have tens of people listening. Let's see. We got Mr. Thai Tuber, and Riley King. Hello, welcome aboard. Hooray, fun time. Yay, 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 yay. Haven't done any writing in a while. Haven't done any writing in a while. Haven't done any drawing in a while. Past couple of days, I've been... like I said, I'm sitting here. I'm looking at a stack of letters. They're stuffed full of paperwork that I've got to send. It's late, and most of it is probably going to come right back to me and say, you have to start over. This is what I hate about the government. Anytime, they can't, different departments can't cooperate with each other unless they're trying to screw you over. I mean, look, Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, all these other things, they shouldn't need you to fill out a whole new set of forms each time you talk to one of them. Really? What, do you think in the walk between the Medicaid office and the Social Security offices, I suddenly became a millionaire? Or that, or you got a soldier. This is a really sad one. If there was anybody that deserved to be on the public dime, it's an American soldier. All right? Dang it. I mean, these people are out there eating bullets and losing limbs and crap. There are people out there who haven't seen their test after a grenade blew them off. Haven't been able to take a dump because their cola went flying in one direction while they went flying in the other in Vietnam. And they can't get it, and they have to go through this bull crap. And they can't, they can't get any help. I mean, they should be at the front of the line. The U.S. government should take a look at the Purple Heart and zing, there you go, and out the door. They have to jump through. There are people out there who came back from Kuwait with legs and arms missing who can't get government help. That's crap. Of course, there are people in the United States. My parents had, they paid taxes their whole lives. They worked and worked and worked and worked and paid and paid and paid and paid and paid in taxes and Social Security and everything else, and they had to fight tooth and nail. They had to, the first step in applying for Social Security nowadays is get a lawyer, because they will reject you the first time. I mean, you can walk in with with no arms, no legs, and the name Torso Boy tattooed across your forehead, and they'll say, well, we need medical proof that you're disabled. Now, it says here that you've been making small income on the side. What have you been doing? Juggling. And I don't like the fact that once you qualify for Social, this is crap. Okay, they find out that you make any kind of money on your own, they cut your Social Security benefits. Look, they plundered you your entire life for those Social Security benefits. That's supposed to be your money. They shouldn't cut a dime of it. They should have never started it in the first place. It it was a boondoggle and a pyramid scheme right from the start. I don't care how everybody thinks FDR was a great president. He wasn't. He was a traitor to this country. He sold it to the socialists. He used the crisis, the economic crisis that the socialists and the he used the artificial crisis that his ilk created to push through all the legislation that's eating us alive now. The fact that he is a better president than the ones we've had for this past 6 to 8 years is a tragedy. By all rights, FDR should have been one of the worst presidents we ever had. But politicians are just so routinely awful that a man who socialized half of America and greased the skids for the socialization of the other half is regarded as one of the great heroes of the country. It's not so much that power corrupts, it's that power attracts the corrupt, as one man put it. I'm sorry, I'm kind of peeved. I'm peeved at everything. I'm always peeved. I'm a disgruntled man. You don't stay gruntled long. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at a blank page, and that's all I'm drawing, a blank. I don't know. Some days the juices just flow. This is what is terrible. This is what is terrible about being an artist. Is that some days the juices flow. Some days you can't get milk out of the cow for nothing. And you say, well, and a lot of people say, well, you have to work anyway. But the problem is that there doesn't. When you're a cartoonist or an artist, there seems to be no correlation between how hard you work on something, how good it is, and whether or not it makes you any money to live on. It's totally random. You might as well be, you know, people have been trying for years to predict the artistic market. Companies who make movies. This is why so many movies are formulaic. Is because they're forever hunting for a formula that will make them money on a regular basis. That's what happens when you have an artistic outlet controlled and monitored and administrated by people with no artistic ability. I mean, the people that run like Universal Studios, they're great at making money. They're not so hot at making movies, which is why they employ actors and directors for making art that will make them money forever. You know, there's no formula. This is why movie makers and producers are going to these producers, and they this is why the elevator pitch is always this other movie that made millions of dollars. They sold. This is how Star Trek was sold to the executives. Roddenberry came to them. You know, this was at a time when Wagon Train and other cowboy movies were all the rage. TV shows about cowboys and westerns and Westward Ho and all that. Bonanza and Branded and Ponderosa and all these others, you know. Gene Roddenberry, when he made his pitch, his elevator, his quick pitch for his show, he described Star Trek as wagon train to the stars. Now, I will point out to you very quickly that Star Trek couldn't have possibly had any less resemblance to Wagon Train in any way. Wagon Train was about a bunch of people going west to settle, out in the wild frontier. Star Trek, for all their talk of boldly going where no one has gone before, every episode was about them visiting someplace somebody else already was or had already investigated. Every other episode was about them visiting a settlement or a colony or a or a planet that some other ship had disappeared into, and you get the idea. They very rarely were out in the untamed frontier of space, and they certainly weren't bringing log cabin settlers with them. But this was the only way he could sell Star Trek to the executives, couching it in a term that their simple, pointy-haired little minds could grasp. Death will make money. And he got lucky. He got very, very lucky. The show was a hit. It went off the air, and then everybody demanded it come. He had a comeback tour. Star Wars, same story. The original pitch was to, they couched it in terms like Buck Rogers and all, there's nothing like those shows. And the next thing you know, Star Wars was a massive billion-dollar franchise, and it was entirely lucky. You look at what George Lucas did to his own baby. I mean, he absolutely, it's the best movies George Lucas ever made were the ones where he had nothing to do with it. He fell backwards into a success. And 99 times out of 100, that's what happens to the successful art. The lightning never strikes the same place twice. And us poor bastard artists are constantly running back and forth to where the lightning just struck, waving a lightning rod and hoping to get lucky. People, you just can't predict the tastes of the public for anything. And the people that try get it wrong so often. I mean, Firefly. Firefly is, it was an excellent show. It was so good. And the people in charge hated it, hated Joss Whedon, and conspired to destroy it. From what I understand, it was one particular female executive who had decided that Joss Whedon was misogynist. That misogynist bastard who made an entire TV series about a girl who kicks vampire butts. It's so misogynistic. And she hated on him, and she conspired to ruin his show. And the rest of the nudniks went along with her. And that show died after one season. Had a comeback with a movie. But they're still standing around fuddling and talking and dropping rumors about, maybe someday we'll start a new series of Firefly. They're going to wait until after all the creative minds that created the show are dead and all the actors are old and wrinkly. Then they're going to bring it back. wrapped up in a nice little socialist, progressive, limousine, liberal Hollywood wrapper, just like they did with Star Trek. Anyway, sorry, it's just this is what's heartbreaking. I mean, look at Van Gogh. I've heard it said that his name is pronounced Van Gogh or even Van Gogh. But anyway, seriously. But anyway, his style was so different from anything else that had come. I mean, this was back when people were still trying to imitate the Renaissance greats with ultra realistic paintings in chiaroscuro and Baroque this and his stuff was he was regarded as a crap artist. He was looked at the way we look at Ed Wood. You know what I'm saying? It was considered laughable. They mocked him, and he died penniless. It was just so tragic. But today, his work is iconic. I mean, Van Gogh's Starry Night. It's rated right up there with the Mona Lisa. Frankly, the Mona Lisa isn't all that great a painting. Like, whoop-de-doo. A woman with no eyebrows. Big thrill. Really? How did that painting become the icon of art everywhere? I have no idea. The interesting thing is that Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, they're finding out they were not. Everybody's used to the Mona Lisa being sort of, sepia toned. And for centuries, they were used to the muted colors of the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling. And they examined it, and they cleaned it up, and people freaked because they examined the paints and the pigments he used, recreated them. He used brilliant colors. I mean, just vivid. The traditionalists who were the stupider traditionalists threw a fit when they saw the Sistine Chapel, but everybody else it was 1,000 times more beautiful. And they say the Mona Lisa is the same way. It's the reason it's the color it is because of a patina, and they keep talking about cleaning it up someday, repairing it, but everybody's scared to. Here's a kicker for you. You know all those white marble statues that are so classy? From ancient Greece and Rome? Here's the kicker. They found this out fairly recently. Those statues, the people that own them painted them. Like big plaster figurines. they would put they'd regularly come back and touch it up, as the weather would chip away the paint. They even used pink paint for the face and painted the eyes in it and everything. All that everybody pictures ancient Greece and Rome with all these beautiful white marble statues everywhere. And it wasn't. It was as tacky as a pink flamingo in somebody's front yard. It's hysterical. Oh. Oh man, the Romans were trashy. I mean, they were trailer trash by any other. They were violent. They were violent slave owners, and they were stupid. They say half the reason that there are people who suspect that half the reason the Roman Empire collapsed is because they had plumbing, but it was all made with lead pipes, and they used lead cups to drink, lead plates to eat. They gave themselves lead poisoning. And lead poisoning makes you dumb as a brick wall. It fries your IQ. And but man, I mean, those big tacky, they had these tacky painted statues all over the place. And one of the common decorations in everybody's front yard was a giant wiener. Seriously, they would have these big carved schlongs sitting by the front walk to their door. It was supposedly to scare off evil spirits. If I saw that out in front of somebody's house, I'd be scared off. But man, I mean, they were bawdy and gross and disgusting and just ugh. The golden age of humanity, right? Here's another kicker for you. Everybody, you get so many of these hot topic atheists, body internet arrested juvenile delinquents that talk about, if it hadn't been for Christianity, we'd be on the moon by now. And, Christianity stopped scientific development. No. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Actual historians will come out and say, no, it was the Christian church, it was the Catholic Church, quite frankly, that saved most of humanity's accumulated knowledge from disappearing forever. You see, it wasn't, Rome was already collapsing. Bread and circuses, military misadventures, wasteful spending, a growing lawlessness problem, a growing homelessness problem. You get the picture. And I'll bet you anything that they also had a nice big run of denatured currency too. But that was what led to their collapse. Rome collapsed. The barbarians invaded and started burning everything. It was the conversion of Constantine to Catholicism that helped save civilization from imploding entirely. First, and second of all, most of the manuscripts, most of the knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome that we have today was saved because the monasteries archived every book they could get their hands on. That's why they had scribes. They weren't just copying the Bible, they were copying every book they got their hands on. The entire civilization of the Celts would have disappeared entirely if it weren't for the monasteries. You see, because the Celts, they didn't use writing to store their history. They had writing, but it was ironclad tradition among the Celts, the Gaelics, that their history and folklore and knowledge was only to be passed on by, and it was only to be by oral tradition. I mean, all their science, all their medicine, all their history, all their folklore. Anything more complex than a bill of sale was oral tradition. And as the Celtic civilization slowly dwindled, fewer and fewer bards were around to pass on the knowledge. Fortunately, many of the Celts who converted to Christianity, converted to Catholicism, they would join the monastery and they would write down what they knew for the archives of the monastery. It was the Catholic Church that preserved what little we know of Celtic civilization today. And they did the same for Greece and Rome and every other civilization. In fact, the reason that they used Latin It wasn't because they didn't use Latin to translate the Bible because it sounded neat. They used Latin because after the fall of Rome, Latin was the language of Rome. And the few scholars that were scattered all over the globe all spoke Latin. It was the scholars' tongue. They used Latin in all their translations and writings so that they knew that any scholar in the world, whether he was German or French or British or whatever those nationalities were called back then, they could pick it up and read and write it. It was Latin. It was used because Latin was what the scholars spoke. They made the Latin Vulgate because all the biblical scholars of the world spoke Latin. That was why Latin was important for so many centuries, even after the Enlightenment, because most of the knowledge that humanity was retrieving was from the past. Knowing Latin was important because if you were a scholar, you were probably going to be fishing through the tattered remains of manuscripts written by somebody from ancient Rome. The Catholic Church, for all its evils, and yes, it did commit great evils, they oppressed anybody that disagreed with their teachings in deliberate, in open violation of the very book they claimed to revere. And they took over the governments of so many countries, but at the same time, the scholars of ancient Rome, the scholars of the Vatican, saved only God knows how much of the lost scholarly work of the past from oblivion. If it hadn't been for Christians and for the Roman Catholics and those of similar the writings, humanity would have had to pretty much start over from scratch. The Dark Ages would have become a black age. As literally everything humanity had learned about the sciences, flawed or not, was completely forgotten. Indeed. Anyway, I'm not trying to, sanctify or canonize, I'm not trying to put a halo on the heads of people, of these people. I'm just pointing out that they are not the devils that progressive culture paints them as. In fact, it's the so-called the self-anointed elite and enlightened civilization today. Oh, they know not how much to those scholars from the past for preserving what was nearly lost in the collapse of Rome. I just get so tired of pinheaded little people talking about how Christianity, how religion in general, and biblical Christianity in particular is responsible for all. We're supposed, you caused the Dark Ages. No, we helped humanity survive the Dark Ages. let's be fair. Uh, it's sometimes it's terrible to realize for things that have been preserved or discovered. It's kind of creepy to realize that the space program owes a good bit to Operation Paperclip, where our government basically smuggled German scientists out of Nazi Germany, gave them amnesty in exchange for their technology and work, or the fact that the hideous experiments that the Japanese conducted on their prisoners, researching diseases. This is where I got the idea for Rosad Bather. You'll remember the questor. Rosad Bather was a scientist, a scholar among people. He was convinced that he noticed that these monsters, dragons, giants, just things that defy description, all over the world, had a certain commonality to them. And his theory was that there was a single sentient cause for the birth of monsters in the world. Yep, reviled did I live, said I, as evil I did deliver. Palindrome. Anyway, he did such horrible things to innocent people, but his discoveries were so shocking that they literally uh, his sentencing and execution till he finished compiling all his notes. It's interesting to note, though, that most of the research that the Germans did was complete crap. Uh, just utter garbage. Trying to change the color of people's eyes with injections. That's sort of nonsense. Just bad science by any standard. Yet the Japanese, the research they did was it wasn't ideologically driven. It was motivated by an actual desire to see what diseases would kill people the fastest. Certain purity of purpose there. They weren't just doing it because they were sadists. They were doing it because they were utterly immoral. Uh, between windows. Come on. Giddy up. I'm not done with this. Okay, I managed together. I found an old. I can hear music playing, but I can't get music to play. Here, never mind. I don't think I'm going to be getting any drug done. This is just not working here. Get up. Is slow. Uh, I maybe I want to get more done, and I get the feeling that I'm going to be sort of slow while I haggle with these various government offices. If I could just harpoon one of the neighborhood kids. Would you take this to the mailbox for me? No, I can't. I can't find anybody. And this brings me back full circle to what I was talking about when I started the show today. I hate that. There's nobody I can just go and ask. Could you do this for me? I'm not on. We live in this little bitty cul-de-sac, okay, with about 50 trailers all clustered together. We should know each name by first name basis, but I don't know anybody. I meet somebody, I talk to them and I get them to mow the lawn. I hire them to mow the lawn, and then they never show up again. I can never seem to remember names, and this is what people need. This is what old people need. People who will run errands. The problem is most of these errand services, they're sort of big ticket. You have to pay a monthly fee or something to have somebody who will go grocery shopping for you, or who will clean house. But what if you just need somebody to run to the mailbox? What if you need somebody to walk the dog, or to I don't know, take out the trash, or roll the trash cans back from the curb, or to fetch something that's out in your car. That I went I busted my knee a few days ago. Stood up and twisted it, and I was literally having to use a walker to get around my own house. It was an ordeal just to go from one room to the next, and I couldn't do anything. I'm still kind of limping. But you need somebody to fetch something from the car. That was an epic quest. Uh, you know, it would have been an epic quest for me to get up, hobble to the front door, slowly, painfully lower myself one step at a time down the steps on my front step, shuffle over my lumpy little lawn to my van, open up, climb inside, and drag out an item that I need, then go all the way back. It would have been an effort of an hour, and I'm not exaggerating. This is why you need either little kids or trained monkeys running around the house. Go fetch that, would you? You know how it was when you were a kid. Way back when in the '70s, you were the remote control. Get up and change that channel, kid. You remember that? If you remember that, congratulations. Welcome to the age of the 40s. Oh my. I remember that, the '70s. for a while there, we had a TV set with one of those old-fashioned clickers. God only knows how those things work. It'd click and the dial would turn. Click, 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 click. Well, most of the time is get up and change the channel. Okay. And you'd walk across the room and click the channel, and you'd stand there and you'd say that. Keep going, click. Keep going, click. Keep going, click. Of course, back then you only got 2 channels. Every TV set had 13 channels, but on average, wherever you were, unless you were unless you were in the sweetest spot in the universe, you got maybe 2 channels and a third one that faded in and out through the static. And maybe one UHF channel where they played Sesame Street. And if you had that many channels, cornucopia, excellent, excellent living. What always drove me crazy is that whenever we would we moved a lot when I was a kid, for different reasons. And every time we'd move to a new house, every time, we would set the TV set up, right? And we'd start changing the channels, and holy crap, there'd be like half a dozen channels coming in. And 3 or 4 more that were, ghosting in and out. And we're like, holy crap, we're going to have all sorts of cool TV shows to watch. And over the course of the next week or so, those channels would slowly fade out until we were back down to 2 channels again. And we would have like acres of aluminum foil dangling from everything. Flags of aluminum. That was the national symbol for those decades. Not the American flag, but 2 flags of aluminum foil dangling from the bunny ears on your TV set. Oh man. It was terrible. And we never got cable. We never got cable until I was like in my teens. I was like 18, 19, and we moved into this we moved into this house, and apparently whoever lived there before had bought cable. And the cable was still on, and we hooked up the TV. Holy crap! We were getting all the channels. I'm like, there's a channel with cartoons on it, 24/7. I have found the promised land, And we had it for like just a couple of weeks, and apparently my parents got hooked because they went out and kept paying it and the cable for about a year. This actually got channels that didn't suck. Okay, you would turn on HBO, you would get actual movies. You would go to MTV, they had. You would go to Arts and Entertainment, they would have shows about arts and entertainment. You would turn on, they didn't have the Cartoon Network back then, but they had Nickelodeon. You would turn on Nickelodeon, there would be actual kids shows. And well, you get the point. Nowadays, I moved out on my own a couple of times for about a month or so. I'd have cable, and I would not bother with cable now. I spent, well, last year I spent 2 or 3 sessions in the hospital because of different reasons, And I saw more cable TV than I will ever be able to stand again. And I apparently got in the middle of sweeps week or something because there was no arts entertainment on A&E, there was no music on MTV, there was no science on the science channels, there was no history on the history channel, there was no sci-fi. They had the Sci-Fi Network, and they didn't have any sci-fi. All they had was a marathon. I am not kidding you. A marathon of this show about this company that in Hollywood that does body painting. There was no cartoons on the car. It was all live, crappy, made for TV, uh, sitcom, crappy shows on Cartoon Network, and I was so mad. I'm still mad. I'm like, click, 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 click. Why in God would anybody pay so much money for all those channels when none of those channels is showing what they advertise? Well, Adrian, at least we got My Little Pony. That's all I've got to say. I used to go to CC. There used to be a pizza place down the road from where I live, right next to the Walmart. It's called CC's. They had a pizza buffet, pizza and salad buffet. I'd eat there all the time. I loved their buffalo pizza. They introduced me to buffalo pizza and buffalo chicken pizza, and I loved it. And they had a TV there. It was permanently stuck on Cartoon Network. And 9 times out of 10, I hated it because it was always these ugly, angular, badly drawn, flash animation based cartoons. The character, it was the writing was stupid, the characters were unpleasant, the artwork was ugly. I mean, I thought we had it bad with Ren and Stimpy, but they Ren and Stimpy gave them a goal to aspire to. Apparently, cartoons that were ugly, gross, and unpleasant as possible. I you know, I you know, this is probably why My Little Pony sunk its hooks into me so fast. I've been watching this show, what, 5 seasons? That's about, what, 3 or 4 years now? Four or five? Holy crap. Feeling old now. But the show, I mean, the animation did not look like these horrible flash animated shows. It looked quality, like they were expending effort. The characters were well written. The jokes were funny. The story was entertaining. I had to, let's put it this way: TV has become regularly so bad. Into it expecting to have to roll my eyes and fast forward. The first time I watched the very first episode, I was like, oh crap, not this. Hitting fast forward to get past what I thought was going to be another dumb, eye-rollingly bad uh, bit of crap. I had to go back and watch it 2 or 3 times before I would actually sit through, cringe-worthy moments. I was expecting nothing but cringe moments throughout the whole thing. I was gun shy, let me tell you. I'll admit there are some times I go, oh, I am not going to watch Pinkie Pie sing. Fast forward. couple of bits of Gumball. They've got a lot of, shall we say, got past the radar humor. I mean, they had one scene where the cat kid found a half-deflated balloon in the bathroom, and the balloon begged him for help. Him walking out of the balloon's floating off, happy again and reinflated, and he says, "Thank you so much," and the cat guy is walking out with this, 1,000-yard stare. He's like, "Whatever, man." Or the one scene where they broke in, they found I forget, a banana watching a animated clip on his computer of a banana peeling herself, and I'm like, yeah. Yeah, Adventure Time. I've only seen like 2 episodes of it, in little clips everywhere. I've read some of the synopsis, and I'm like, holy crap, it got grimdark fast. It's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic world. That's why there's a big chunk blown out of the side of the planet. Mm, I don't know. I don't fraction of grimdark. Okay, I mean a little bit to spice up the story a little bit, to give it a little more depth. Most people want to wallow in it. Of course it is. They don't think they have to try anymore. The animation and artwork is awful. Characters are stupid. Yeah, yeah. Of course, the premise is grade school ridiculous. They're not really trying. It's stoner humor, okay? Let's admit it. Let's say it. Let's say it. All these shows, Total Drama Island, my roommate's, my gym mate is a monkey. Uh, uh, Adventure Time, SpongeBob SquarePants, all of it. It's stoner humor. It's for people who are at 3. It's let's call it 420 humor, okay? It's for people who are awake at 4:20 in the morning. That's the thing of it. Stoner humor is hysterical when you've been awake for like 15 hours. I used to watch Syphil and Ollie. Syphil, it was Syphil and Ollie. There was a TV show on MTV. This was back in when I was in like my mid 20s, and I was still willing to pay for a little cable TV, and I got MTV for free, and so late at night was Syphil and Ollie. It was a puppet show. It was done with sock puppets. Here, let me see if I can find a reference on the internet here. And it was, it was like it was ad lib by 2 stoners playing with toy socks. But some of it was so freaking hysterical. I mean, it was screamingly funny sometimes. It still is, some of it. This was back in 1997. Wow, 1997 and 1999. Okay, let's see. Let me see if I can get the audio to play for you guys. This is one of their recurring characters, Chester. Give me a second here. I'm sorry. I wish you could have heard that. I forgot about that last line. And they also had, but it wore glass, and he was always selling stuff like really stupid stuff. You know, precious boy, Roy, making lots of suckers out of girls and boys. And he said he would be selling like a meat scented air conditioner, and they'd show a picture of a fan with a raw chunk of meat draped over the front, and you know, and he was like the king of non sequiturs. My name is Precious Roy, and I just ate a handful of honeybees. And you're like, what? Perfect humor for when you're sleep deprived. That's all I can say. But it was awesome. It was so much fun. I mean, it was one of the few shows that I will, okay, MTV. It isn't a music show, but I'll give you a pass on this one. Syphil and Ollie. If they brought back Syphil and Ollie, it would make up for like half the run of Jersey Shore all by itself. It's easy to make steady money if you're willing to stoop to the lowest common denominator, though. And this is not the lowest common denominator. The lowest common denominator is Honey Boo Boo. The lowest common denominator is Jersey Shore, the Kardashians, the Real World show, the Road Trip show, where they take a bunch of spoiled, yuppie uh, 18-year-olds and 20-somethings and give them more money and privilege than any real human being in the real world will ever experience. And they call that a reality show. I hated the. I mean, I was in my mid 20s, mid 30s, and I was living in a one-room apartment the size of somebody else's walk-in closet. and these jerks, these teenage jerks, were getting rounded up by this show, moving in together into this big suite, this huge condo that would cost like $1 million a year in rent. And this is where it gets real. None of them had a job. Oh, here, you want to see a real life show? What you do is you take those same kids, you give them a list of, you take them out to the suburbs and find them one of these little houses with like 4 or 5 rooms, and tell them, okay, here's your house. We've got a list of jobs that you can apply for. McDonald's is hiring. And here's a list of bills that you have to pay every month. Good luck. And then just leave the cameras running. Oh, you'll see some real TV right then. Real world. I saw more real world at their age than they will see in their 40s. And then they stopped running music videos. Pop-Up Video, that was great. Pop-Up Video was a show where they would run the music video, but while the music video was running, little word bubbles would appear on the screen, pointing to different things on the screen, and they would give little bits of trivia, like about the video or about whatever they're singing about, or even sometimes random stuff about, this is a potted plant that's been extinct for 5 years, or stuff like that, Okay, question on Tales of the Questor. Okay. Have they forgotten origins, or has someone actively blocked it? They've just forgotten it. I mean, you give enough time, anything becomes folklore or becomes forgotten. That's one of the premises of most fantasy writing, I've noticed, is that we used to know this stuff thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, but as time went by, we forgot it all, and blah, 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 blah. This is attributable to the fall of Rome again. Think about it. The fall of Rome to barbarism. It was a collapse of the greatest civilization humanity had ever known at the time. And the bits and pieces that clung to survival lifting themselves back up out of barbarity all over again. They could look up, they could see the ruins of the aqueducts and the Colosseum, and going further back, they could see the pyramids and the Sphinx, and they could look at that, and they had evidence right in front of them. There was a great civilization before us. They could do things that we can't even imagine. And so centuries were spent less trying to learn new things than digging up the lost knowledge of the past. The thing of it is that has become a trope in fantastic fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, that the ancient civilizations of the past were always greater and grander and more fantastic than anything we know today. When, quite frankly, it's not true anymore. As P.G. O'Rourke put it, he wrote a short story where he described what it would be like if, say, the Pharaoh of Egypt somehow traveled forward in time and found himself in a 7-Eleven. and it just runs down. And he describes how the pharaoh is just rocked back on his heels on the luxuries and impossible things that he finds all around him. Anyway, he would basically uh, the pharaoh who had overseen the building of the pyramids would be left believing that he had found the antechamber of the gods. I mean, huge glass. Did they even have glass at all in ancient Egypt? Transparent walls, just for starters. The glass front of the store. Glowing signs. Illumination that came from nowhere without any flame or heat. Frozen treats. Ice cold drinks in the middle of the blazing desert. Food standing on the shelf that he had never tasted before. Can you imagine what a taste of chocolate back in the days of ancient Rome or Egypt would have done to civilization? Think about it. And then he finds the medicine rack. He finds the the just running down the little aspirin tablets and toothache medicine and stuff the average store has right on the shelf. Miracle cures for things that have been suffering since the dawn of time. Uh, just some tooth gel. What most people don't realize about the ancient Egyptians is that they had sand in everything, even their food. The grain they ate with it, the bread. They figure that just chewing the bread they had was like sanding the enamel off their teeth. A medicine that could numb the pain he had been living with his entire life. King Tut would worship the guy behind the counter as a god. Breath freshener, that would be a new one for him. Yeah, Adrian, I'm sure it's perfectly sterile. Nobody's interested. Okay? Nobody cares. This is something nobody wants to find out about it the hard way. Okay? Anyway, it's all the glories of ancient Egypt would not equate to the same wonders you would find in a gas mart. Anyway, there's also the premise that, but we still assume that the civilizations of the past were greater somehow. Oh, I think that before Noah, they probably achieved incredible things. Before the flood, the amount of time between the counting on their fingers and toes, the scholars believe that the time between Adam and Eve leaving the Garden of Eden and Noah boarding that ark, about the same amount of time between the birth of Christ and today. Imagine how far they got. They lived in a world that was temperate everywhere. They had lifespans multiples of our own. They had all the time. they lived in a world that was in many regards much more pleasant than today. So they had all the time and opportunity in the world to build civilizations that were greater than anything that exists today. We don't know because the flood was so destructive that anything, if you ask the answers in Genesis, people, the flood, the way they believe it happened, based on the descriptions in the Bible and their own archaeological evidence and their theoretical models, basically stated if we had the flood of Noah reoccur today, it would literally obliterate every single trace of our civilization right down to the last paperclip. We might find a handful of things 1,000 years on, after the floodwaters receded and the sediments settled into their layers and hardened to stone. But abandoned cities, no, there wouldn't be nothing left. I mean, the you look at the check online, the world after humanity. Just look that one up on YouTube. You'll find plenty of episodes like that, where they speculate how long the works of man would last if humanity just up and vanished. Basically, uh, all our skyscrapers would be crumbled to rubble within 100 years. Most of the cities we have now would either have dried up, burned away, or been flooded out. Uh, uh, I've said this before. The movie Wall-E. It was very entertaining. It was great fun. It was funny and sentimental and sweet and romantic, but it was absolutely wrong about how it portrayed the world after humanity. Because everything that Wall-E was compressing into block, that stuff would have crumbled to rust and dust 400 years before. At the time the movie's story started, the world would have already broken down all the litter and rubble. Uh, the pollutants would have already dissolved back into their constituent chemicals. The plants would have definitely already returned. The entire thing would have been overgrown and green. Wall-E should have been shown, if they had been scientifically accurate, Wall-E would have been shown rolling around a lush green rolling landscape, if not one overrun by forests and jungles. There would have been nothing left of the civilization that made Wall-E. And that's without a flood that literally ripped the world a new one. Anyway, uh, uh, but the thing of it is that the modern day is not like previous uh, uh, antediluvian civilizations. Look, every age of civilization, we've had rises and falls. The Medes and Persians rose and fell. The Greeks rose and fell. The Romans rose and fell. And so on and so forth. You had the Muslims, the Islamic Empire rose and fell, and dozens of overlapping ones all over the world. The Chinese empires. But as each wave rose and receded, it left behind more knowledge, more technology, more records of the past. We are at a stage where literally all the accumulated knowledge of man could be stored in a box the size of your desk. Top. You'll remember one of the latest chapters of Darth Vulcan. He stole a 1,000,000-volume library with a single SD chip. It was a 1 terabyte chip, which is a little bit of forecasty on my part. They haven't started selling 1 terabyte chips yet. So let's just say the story's set a few years in the future, about 5, say. But you can already buy a chip that will hold thousands of volumes of books. Your entire local library could be stored in a chip in your iPhone. There are more books in print right now. There are more copies. Let's take one book. The Engineering for Dummies, one of the 4 Dummies knowledge. There's probably more copies of the 4 Dummies book in existence right now. Hard copies, paper copies with long-lasting paper and laminated covers on the planet right now in various languages than there were books 1,000 years ago. Heck, 200 or 300 years ago. One of the surest guarantees of knowledge being carried into the future is redundancy. Redundancy of copies. This is why they make so many copies of everything. The story is of Darth Vulcan. It's in filmfiction.net. It's basically about a jerk who gets transported to a quest and proceeds to be an epic level villain jerk. Anyway. Oh, indeed. There's plenty of forms. Look, there are books in museums right now that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 centuries old. Most of the modern storage techniques, they're compressed, they're small, they don't last very long, maybe a few years. It all depends upon the method they're stored in. Let's just put it this way. We've got so many copies of everything that it would literally take another world-destroying apocalypse on the level of the Great Flood to wipe out everything. And even then, you'd still have, like, the satellites in orbit, and the lunar lander, and the space buggy, and all the other little doodads that are still up there on the moon. 10,000 years from now, barring a really, really lucky meteor strike, that moon buggy will still be there, sitting up there, in close to the same condition it is in now. Vacuum sealed, baby. We've got books. We've got books on tape. We've got books on CD. We've got books on DVD. We've got books on SD chip. We've got books on microfilm. And more importantly, we have books in between our ears. What we learn and pass on to our children will last as well. I loved the movie The Book of Eli. The that this man, it's a post-apocalypse scene, Road Warrior style. Everything's burned out and everything. He's making his way across the Midwest. This fella named Eli, played by, was it Samuel Jackson or no? It was not Samuel Jackson. But anyway, he was played by a black gentleman. The black actor is, what was his name? Anyway, he's crossing America. He has what he believes is the last copy of the Bible on Earth, and he is trying to get it across America to this island. Some scientists and scholars have turned they turned Alcatraz Island into a sanctuary, and they are preserving copies of everything they can get their hands on. And he's taking this copy of the Bible across America to this island. It's an action movie, and it is really, and it is stunning and thought provoking, and it is great fun. But the initial premise is sort of flawed. That there's only one copy of the Bible left in the world. The idea is that the world collapsed into a war, and everybody ran around. Everybody blamed Christianity, specifically the Bible, for causing the war. They would never blame the Quran. People are that stupid, yes. Anyway, and that everybody had gone on this orgy of book burning, trying to destroy the Bible, especially to keep it from ever happening again, right? And it's a post-apocalyptic world. Just about everybody that's left is becoming illiterate, and disaster city. And anyway, he makes his way across. He does get there. Big surprise. But the initial premise is that they managed to destroy all the copies of the Bible in the world. The thing of it is that there are literally millions and billions of copies of the Bible in existence, in every possible form. I have a keychain sitting here with a digit of the King James Bible on it that I can plug into any computer right now and peruse. There are DVD copies, digital copies, audio copies, plastic LP record copies, everything, literally, in every possible form. Multiple translations. And there would be no way that they could destroy all the copies, but especially not with Christians fighting for their own lives and fighting to save the copies of the Bible they had. People have been trying to destroy the Bible for thousands of years, all the way back to the time of Christ and before that. But God's Word has been preserved. And at this point, there are so many copies they'd never get them all. Of course, spoiler alert, Eli has a very good reason for thinking that it's the only Bible left in the world. Now, this entire movie, you don't know, there are hints through the whole movie, right from the beginning, about this twist ending. He's traveling across the country. He's a literal, Denzel Washington, that's his name. He's kicking butt and taking names the entire way across the desert. He fights people hand to hand. He shoots buzzards out of the sky with his bow. He's just unstoppable, right? Well, it turns out at the very end, the villain has been chasing after him because the villain wants this copy of the Bible. Because he plans on using the Bible as, everybody remembers, there's still people who remember the Bible, and they remember, they start realizing we need it. And the villain intends to use the Bible to start a charismatic empire. Well, anyway, he gets his hands on what he thinks is the copy of the Bible. And Denzel Washington escapes. He's dying from a belly wound, but he holds it together. And the villain is also dying. He's been shot and he's infected. He's gotten an infection is just climbing up his side. And he opens the book and it's Braille. It's Braille. Through the whole movie, you don't realize until there's hints, but it's confirmed. Denzel Washington's character Eli was blind the entire time. And that's the only reason, how would he know that there were any other copies in the world? He could only read Braille. And of course, this villain is sitting here. His empire's falling apart around him. His gang members are rioting. And he can't read it. The book of life in front of him, he can't read it. And he has this blind slave girl. He calls her in and demands that she read it to him. She opens it up and runs her hands on. I don't know how to read Braille. I never learned back before the end. It looks like you're on your own. And meanwhile, Eli and the girl that he rescued make it to the island, and he begins to recite. He cleans himself up, dresses. He's getting ready to die, and he begins reciting the Bible from memory. The entire time he had been carrying that Bible across America, all those years, he'd been reading it every single day, over and over and over and over, until he had literally memorized it word for word. What sort of got on my nerves was the fact that at the end of it, they show him putting a copy of the Bible up on a shelf between a copy of the Koran and some other religious book. Just had to underline that. Oh, we don't think that this religion is any more important than any other here. Derp, 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 herp, derp, derp. And I saw that movie, and I was floored to imagine that anybody in Hollywood would even try and make a movie like that these days. Something that presented the Bible as something precious, and Christianity as something good, and humanity as something that needed God's word. My word, I just don't know. And they just had to burn that pinch of incense to the Muslims, though. I'm wondering how many more people they have to set on fire before people start going, gee, I'm not sure, but maybe, just maybe, Islam isn't the religion of peace. Just thinking, maybe. possibly that it might not be the case. Okay, flickering for some reason. I'm trying to figure it out. Uh, why is my mouse flickering? A little mouse icon or cursor is sort of flickering on and off, and I don't know why. Randomly. I think it's transferring something. I don't know. Wish I knew what it was. I hate that. I feel like I you know, makes it leaves me feeling a little humbled, maybe even a little ashamed. Do you realize just what kind of a stand Denzel Washington and the other people that made that movie had to take just to get a movie like that made? They probably had to spend every uh, favor owed. They probably had to spend all their cred, their street cred points, just to get a movie like that. I mean, I think I hurt myself. Ow, ow, my ball. Ow, pain in my side there. Just sat on something wrong, probably. Well, there you have it. I have completely forgotten what I was getting at. Well, anyway, my point was is that, but my point was is that the initial premise that there was only one Bible left in the world, uh, even the most thorough book burners in the world weren't successful at destroying every copy of something. Beg pardon. Now, it is. Uh, Most of this was just to try and test out this new setup, and try and see if I could work out the glitches and stuff. But apparently, I can't. Uh, I've still got to wait until I get a little money so I can buy some working headsets, and it's going to be a little while for that. If you know anybody out there who would like a commission done, who would like a drawing done, who would like, if they'd like to commission a story to be written, I'll do that too. Oh, what the heck? My playlist deleted itself. What the heck? Darn it. I had screensavers and stuff to nuts. Anyway, um, anyway, it is 9:30. I will see you all tomorrow, one way or the other. 6 o'clock. I'll be shooting for gold. Get some artwork done. Get some pictures done. Get some artwork. Get some stuff up and on the page. Got to keep updating. This is, survival. You know. If you know it, direct them to my site. I got a button for making commissions. I even have some T-shirts and stuff for sale now. Well, a T-shirt style for sale and a bumper sticker. Just click on the links on the front page. And there's also a store where you can order any of the books I've got for sale. And there's a button for making commissions. $20 black and white, $40 color. That's the starting. Variations for the price goes up a little bit for every extra character you add to the picture. I'm trying to think of anything else. I also have Patreon if you'd like to sponsor. And there's also a PayPal button on the front. Toss $1 in the hat. For now, I will see you all tomorrow, and we'll try and squeeze a little more art juice out and do some productive work tomorrow. Assuming I don't spend half the day hobbling down to the mailbox. But anyway, I'll see you then. Yeah. And for now, we'll call it a night. Nip and Tuck hot dog commission. Oh goodness, I forgot about that one. I'll have to look. I know you gave that one. I gotta look it up. That is tomorrow. We'll start working on screen. All right. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Be there or be square. Y'all take care. Good night.